listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. I am semi-supervised one more time. Myra's still dealing with her allergies, so she's here, but not here. Not in the same room. Anyway, let's put it that way. As folks tune in, I usually remind everyone that if you like what you hear, please hit those share buttons, the like buttons, and all those good things. Don't forget notifications, subscriptions, whatever platform you're listening on. We're everywhere. And we used to say, where free podcasts are sold or something like that. So, make it easy for other people to find us and subscribe and hit the notifications and all that good stuff. Don't, I see she popped in and let us know that she's here too. I want to make sure that everybody remembers the books are still available. If you haven't gotten your copies yet, one copy for you, one copy to give to your pastor. Make sure he's inundated with them, or she, as the case may be. Because there's a lot of things that they're taught in Bible college and seminary, wherever they went to get their credentials, that are more denominational and more traditional than they are biblical. And that's a little bit of something we're going to look at tonight. Not much, maybe touch on it a little. I want to look at the attack on humanity itself. And you might think, well, that's kind of a strange way to put that. But not when you realize how well it's been camouflaged over the years. You see, the attack on humanity itself is as old as Adam and Eve, in the garden, way back when, so 6,000 years ago or so. And it continues today in different venues. Everything from evolution to the transgender movement is an attack on humanity. But even stranger than that, and it might not be so strange to some, because I know a lot of people listening around the world are more, I guess I could say, in tune with the spiritual world than a lot of Westerners are. But a recent article about a family in Turkey who walks on their hands and feet, they're all bent over, not exactly like an ape would walk, but more like a dog or a quadruped would walk. And the writer had this to say: one scientist concluded over a decade ago that the condition signaled backwards evolution. Now, wait a minute. You can't have it go both ways. You either continue to evolve into something better, or you devolve into something worse. It doesn't work both ways. The genetics and the proteins and the enzymes can't have it like that. It just doesn't work. He goes on to note that other scientists have different conclusions from ranging from nutrition to mental health issues. The BBC actually made a documentary of them, and you can watch those on YouTube if you're interested. But this, there's some children in this family that walk bent over at the waist, head down, feet and hands work together to motivate them across the ground. And the way that these folks walk is very far from any of the natural gait of any species. Okay? If you take the time and watch the way they move, it is not natural for any species to move like this. And that should lead believers to question the history of their families. Were they involved with evil? That's a legitimate question. And I don't want this to become a discussion about demon possession. That's not where I'm going with this. But the completely unnatural and crippling effect when you watch these folks walk would appear to be more demonic than either physical or emotional. Now, I do need to be clear that not all physical or mental abilities or disabilities are demonic. Okay? It's just that simple. Not everything we see is either good or evil. Sometimes it's, you got to watch, you got to look, you got to see. We are familiar with a family whose child does have severe physical abnormalities with the heart. The difference between what is demonic and what is not should be obvious if you are a critical observer and you understand spirit, demonic, and other things. You realize that our Creator allows physical and emotional abnormalities for His reasons. Usually, it's going to be so that the people who are outside of the situation looking in are able to see our Creator at work. The family we know actually surrounds their child with love and care to the best of their ability, and it's on display for everyone to see. They try to offer the best care, and the child realizes there's some things they can't do. But here's the weird thing. Every time you see the family, every time you see the child, every time, whether it's in a picture or whether it's when you're with them, they're all filled with joy, and that young person is always smiling. The best attitude that there can be. That person knows they are surrounded with love. And that they have a family that will support them no matter what's happening. Contrast that. We also know some families that, they're not that fortunate. They've dabbled in things like witchcraft. They've dabbled in the demonic. And it's easy to see in the entire family. Now, they might smile, they might appear happy until you really start to look. Their eyes are dark. Their demeanor is dark and sullen. They're never satisfied. This is going to sound terrible. And it is. But they're sort of like the black holes of society. They're always absorbing more and more of everything. Whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's food, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter how much they get. They're never, ever satisfied. Maybe you know folks like that. And you've always wondered, how is it that they can live the way they're living? The evil forces at work are doing everything they are able to do to dehumanize mankind. And that's where we're going with this tonight. And we want to look at the dehumanization not only of mankind, but of humanity itself. In Genesis 1:27, we read that God created man in His own image. In the image of God created He them, male and female created He them. Now, I went over that pretty fast because it should be very familiar. We're made in the image of our Creator. Being made in the image of our Creator makes us different. We actually learn later in Genesis 2:7. The Lord formed man out of the dust. Actually, it's mud. Okay, it's mud of the earth because it was wet. Translators. Let me begin again. The Lord God formed man out of the mud of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Do you realize that no other being on earth, no other being in heaven is recorded as receiving this breath of life directly from our Creator? That makes us different. Mankind is its own special being. Now, I know that's a slap in the face for some who want to think we're nothing more than high-class apes. Let's face it. I just slap Darwin folks all around a little bit, but I'm not done. It also goes against some common church doctrine that actually comes from the book of Enoch, that eludes, or I should say infers, actually it comes right out and says it, that angels mated with human beings and beget the giants. Did you realize that? Now I'm going to ask this question. Is it in the character of our Creator to create a being that would be able to procreate with a different kind? If the Creator designed us, gave us something special, made us completely different, would we be able to procreate with something that was not of our kind? Is it in his character to do so? And you might say, well, lions and tigers, they'll interbreed. And yes, they will. You get either a ligan or however depends on which way it goes, right? But they're both cat kind. And remember, they don't have the breath of life. Mankind is different than the divine beings. Would he actually create us in such a way that we would be able to mate with divine beings to produce offspring? Now, I want you to think about this, because there's something that Yeshua Jesus says in John 3:16. Many of you might not know it's there, but it's there if you go back to the Greek. And he tells Nicodemus, he is the only one-of-a-kind product between any divine being and mankind. Do I need to say that again? Yeshua tells Nicodemus in John 3:16, he is the only product between a divine being and mankind. Go scramble that and look it up. Now, it doesn't really translate into English well, does it? But if you look at it in the Greek, you'll see that's what it means. Monogesis. One of a kind. Unique. I'm not really at liberty to reveal how that reads in Hebrew yet. I'll just simply say it's very, very close. The enemy has been attempting to dehumanize mankind since day 6 of creation, our creation. The serpent tells Eve, well, surely you won't die. You see, he's twisting the words so that they sound inviting to her. He's undermining the Creator himself, causing her to question the Almighty's word. Then we have the myths and the legends of the old worlds that do the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're thinking about the centaur, the half man, half god, or half man, half horse thing, or if you're going to discuss polytheism, the polytheistic concept of many gods. Mankind has been under attack simply because we're made in the image of our Creator. He wanted us to be very much like him, not the same as him, but his image, very close to him, a very, very close representation, if you will. There's a pretty famous book written about 140 years ago now. And a lot of people turned that book into a whole lot more than it was worth when it was written. Many people today use part of the title to promote an ideology, but they leave out the rest of the title because it doesn't fit their agenda. Or does it? Yeah. Of course, I am speaking of Charles Darwin on the Origin of Species. But that's not the title of the full book, or the full title of the book. The full title is On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or the Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle of Life. You see, Darwin considered people of color to be less than human. But that's what evolution teaches, isn't it? The dehumanization of humanity itself. And that's something a lot of people stick to today. Darwin observes finches, and he's looking at them, and his drawing has these finches with different shaped beaks. And he claimed that proves evolution. What he was actually observing was adaptation, not evolution. They were still finches. They were still the same species. They didn't change anything. That's not evolution, that's adaptation. Do you realize that today we have hundreds of tons of fossils? In all of those rocks that are crying out, by the way, there's not a single transitory fossil species anywhere. Hundreds of tons of fossil record. Not a single species in transition in any of it. When I was in school, just a little over 40 years ago now, there was a theory that by the year 2000, humans would no longer be born with a little toe on their foot because it simply isn't necessary. How about that? That's what they were teaching us back then. Seems kind of silly now, doesn't it? Out of all 4 of our granddaughters that were born after 2005, guess how many of them have a little toe on each foot? All of them do. Because that's the way we're designed. That's the way we are put together by our Creator. You see, the theory of evolution is nothing but another attack that attempts to dehumanize mankind. It goes so far as to suggest that reptiles can change into birds because scales are similar to feathers. Maybe if you lived in the 18th century and you're somebody who wanted to prove that God didn't exist so he could push his own agenda, Darwin may have convinced some. And some of those people got to be really good salesmen, and they convinced some others, and they convinced some others. But today we know. It's becoming more and more accepted that it's impossible. There's no way scales can change into feathers. Neither on the cellular level, on the molecular level, or on the protein level. They're just not the same. No matter how many years you give them, it's not going to change. The thought of man evolving from apes, no matter how similar we are, it's something that is becoming more and more ridiculous to the scientific community every day. And it's simply because they used to, there for a little while when they first discovered DNA and they were looking at all these DNA chains, You're like, look, man shares a common DNA sequence with a chimpanzee. Well, yeah, we do, but it's a very short sequence and a very long chain. Now, it's less than 1/100,000th of a percent in the overall length, according to some scientists. Doesn't prove anything other than, yeah, we're kind of similar. For that matter, we also share a similar sequence with a banana. How many of you folks are going to get dressed up and sing the Chiquita Banana song, if you remember that? It just doesn't make sense scientifically. The scientific community is beginning to reject evolution based on real, observable, and repeatable science. But now there's another movement to dehumanize mankind. Evolution may have worked for a while. It may have fooled some. Oh, got to do something different. It's known as a trans community. But even the trans community has gotten so out of control that the LGBTQ plus community is pushing them out of their ranks. Isn't that amazing? I listened to someone on the news last night, I believe it was, who was testifying. And he said, the LGBTQ plus community has nothing in common with the trans community. They're pushing them out of their ranks. They don't want to be associated with them. I guess that's what happens when evil goes too far. It divides itself. The harm that the transgender group has done is irreparable for most of the people that they have influenced, especially the ones that have had surgery. The reality of this world is the more the enemy attempts to dehumanize mankind, the more they actually prove the Creator designed us, male and female, in His image. Like Him, close representations, similar but different. No matter how many reject the Almighty, He remains completely in control. He allows those who reject Him to be used for His purpose. Now, sometimes He uses them to show others how foolish the ideas of man are. Sometimes He uses the people who reject Him simply to show how foolish rejecting the Creator can be. But believers need to learn how to see through the transparency of ignorance. And folks, I'm going to tell you that the transgender community is very transparent. You can see right through them. You know where this is coming from. You know what it is. A man cannot become a woman any more than he can become an ape or a rabbit or a mouse or a banana. I don't care how he identifies. I don't care how she identifies. They are what they are. You will never change it. You are designed by your Creator. You can either accept it or you can reject it. If you reject it, well, good luck with that. No, I take that back. You don't need luck. You need some divine intervention. It's just all there is to it. But if you allow someone, well, I won't say it that way. When someone actually follows an evil spirit long enough that they allow demonic possession, it can change the way you walk. It can change the way you talk. It can change your physical appearance. It changes everything about you eventually. if you look back through history, there is a very similar description, let's just say it that way, between the people who actually practiced witchcraft, sorcery, that type of thing. They're all described as the same way. They age very quickly. They have skin irritations. They're sickly. There's a reason for that. There's a very good reason for that. When you follow an evil spirit long enough to allow demonic influences, it changes you physically. That is part of dehumanization. You're not made, you're not designed to age rapidly. You're actually designed to live forever. But because sin entered the world, the process of aging and death takes place. I would hope you'd want to slow that up. But that's just me. You don't allow yourself to be dehumanized by following fools. I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound kind of light, but it's not. What you're witnessing is actually nothing more than another battle in the war for mankind. That's not lighthearted. That is serious. The battles we fight today are going to be different than the battles we fought yesterday. Yesterday we were fighting evolution. Today we know better. Today we're fighting, well, God put me in the wrong body. No, he didn't. He put you in exactly the body he wanted you in. You're rejecting that. Tomorrow, who knows what we're going to be fighting, but we're still going to be fighting. And we'll be fighting until the Almighty says, that's enough. I'm tired of it. The last time he just simply got mad and flooded the earth. This time, I think he's going to stand up and shout. Heaven and earth will be shaken. And when that happens, there will be no doubt, not even the people who reject him will be able to say, I'm better than him. I don't choose him. You're not going to have a choice because you're going to face him. And what you hear at that meeting will determine your future. I would urge, if you think you are in danger of not having a good future, I would urge you to repent. It just seems like a good thing to do. You might want to do it often because, you're not going to get it perfect. But it's okay, as long as you're honestly trying. I wish I had better news for you, but the best news I've got for you is you can always repent. You can always turn back, because it certainly is going to beat the alternative. Which battle do you want to fight? It's your choice. It's up to you. And until Monday, many, many, many blessings, everyone.